Luo was a typical nice guy with a soft spot for people. He survived through the apocalypse and helped a girl until she betrayed him and got him killed. Luckily for him, he gets to return through something called the Tyrant System. This time, he meets a badass ability user chick who can't keep her hands off him, but he keeps pushing her away because of his PTSD. He's too focused on leveling up and repaying vengeance to all who showed him hell. This story begins in the year 2025 when a sudden meteor shower carrying a virus struck the Earth. Over 80% of the global population turned into monsters that preyed on other humans. A small fraction of those who survived awakened powerful abilities, and they became the new rulers. Somewhere some guys beat up someone they tied up named Luo Hao, and they ask him if there are other people planning to escape with him. Their boss, a huge guy, calls Luo trash and tells him he fed him, but he decided to run. The boss says they all deserve to die, but Luo says that he'd rather die than live under a devil like him. He says he only regrets trusting the female dog Anna, because their plan was exposed so soon through her. Shocked, Anna gets up and slaps him in the face, demanding to know how he dare call her by her name, since she's Lord Kwang Tu's woman now. Luo tells her that he never would have saved her when the world ended if he had known she'd turn out to be like this, but she calls him naive. She asks Lord Kwang Tu what they should do with this trash. So, Lord Kwang Tu says they need to get rid of it. Kwang Tu gets up and reminds Luo that ability users are the rulers in this apocalypse, and he punches Luo so hard that his body is flung several feet away until he breaks through the wooden wall and falls several feet to his death, where the monsters come to finish him up. Looking down at him, Anna asks Lord Kwang Tu why he doesn't just drain him with his power. So, Kwang Tu tells her he can't be bothered to devour this kind of trash. As the monsters overpower Luo's limp body, he promises himself that he'll kill every last one of these ability users. As he's burning with rage, Luo finds himself somewhere else where he's receiving another punch because he's destined to live a hard life. The guy who punched him warns him to stay away from Anna if he doesn't want him to break his legs next. These guys look like the classic story dirtbags, but with pot bellies. They have bodies well fitted for the mafia, but they don't seem to have the dressing right. Luo has a what the FEF look on his face, and he wonders how he's here when he was just a buffet for monsters. He looks at his body, and he realizes there aren't any wounds on him, and he's not hungry like he was before since he'd been starving for months. He wonders where he is, and he asks his assailant if he's with someone named Chang Shudong. The big guy lifts him again and tells him he's the boss actually, but Luo gets tired of his mouth odor, so he kicks him in the face, knocking the big guy to the ground. The guy starts to cough blood, so he tells his men to rush at Luo. The blockheads rush in to defend their boss, but Luo doesn't move an inch and just notices all the openings they have. He kicks the first one to the curb, and he dodges the attack of the next big guy. While he's fighting, he notices that these people don't look like they've survived the apocalypse at all, which means they're jokers. He kicks the next guy in the neck and makes him buddies with a nearby restroom door. With 3 guys down, one of the remaining 2 panics and suggests they retreat, but the other guy refuses because of his overinflated ego. They both charge at Luo from both sides, but Luo grabs the guy who's holding a knife and twists the knife out of his hand. Immediately, the other guy tries to club him with a baseball bat, but Luo grabs his hand and smacks him into the ground using the force of his weight. After that, he tells the boss to get lost or die, so the guy pleads and promises to. When Luo looks down, the guy rushes in with his knife, thinking he spotted an opening, and blood is spilled. Turns out to be the huge guy, though, who's had his skull cracked with the bat. Luo wonders if this is a dream, or if his life is flashing before his eyes. When he checks his phone, he's shocked to see that the date is May 15th, 2025, a week before the apocalypse broke out. He doubts whether this is real, so he rushes to the window to look outside. When he checks, he notices that everything looks like it did before the apocalypse. A smile develops on his face because he wasn't expecting something like this to happen. He's happy that he's returned to a week before the outbreak. So he decides to stockpile enough supplies before the outbreak so he can guarantee his survival and make up for the mistakes he made before. Suddenly, a screen appears and notifies him that a host has been detected. He's surprised, but he reads off the screen that something called the 10-cent evolution system has been automatically bound to him. His stats appear, and he's at evolution level 1 with 0% progress. Luo wonders what's going on, but he's told that the system can absorb external energy to help the host evolve and allow the host to break through species limit. Luo wonders what that means, and if that means he can evolve into an immortal. The system tells him that's a way to put it and further explains that it can convert the energy he collects into abilities, but he's also told that converting energy into abilities will consume a lot. Excited, Luo decides to confirm this system, so he goes to a nearby electrical box and starts to absorb the electrical energy. This causes the lights to suddenly go out, and those inside wonder what's going on. Somewhere else, some boys rejoice that they won't be going to school because of the power outage. Meanwhile, Luo races out with his entire body covered with electric current. He runs past the two boys without them seeing him run past, and they wonder what just passed by them. Luo realizes this new power isn't half bad, and the system informs him that he can't use his abilities once he runs out of energy. He asks the system what his current evolution progress is just 2% after he absorbed the whole school's electricity. So he's told electricity is ordinary low-level energy, and he'll need to absorb ability energy to level up quickly. Luo recalls that abilities won't appear until a week from now, and he realizes it won't be so easy to get to level 2 since it's 168 hours until the apocalypse begins. The system issues him a survival preparation mission to gather enough food, water, and weapons within 3 days as his starting capital. He's told to open the system map to see supply locations, and the system storage is unlocked as a reward for the mission. Luo re-wonders what a system storage is, so he's told that the storage can hold anything he touches, but he's told that he requires the consent of a living thing to store it. Luo's impressed, so he opens the system map to see the supply locations. When he sees the first location, he realizes it's a place he knows like the back of his hand, and he realizes the universe is finally smiling down on him. He promises to make all those who hurt him pay and never let history repeat itself. Later, Luo tracks down the supermarket on the map from memory. Once he's inside, he remembers that it's over 100 hours until the apocalypse begins, so he has to collect enough supplies. Our devilish MC starts to make all the bread in the store disappear by touching them. He goes around touching random food, but he's told the mission is only 0.6% complete. That makes him almost lose his mind because he'll never be done at this rate. He decides to ignore this because he didn't come for the obvious supplies anyway. He remembers someone named Chang Shudong, so he enters a nearby room to take all the good stuff. Chang hid there because he knows that would help him finish the mission. Once inside, he sees two badass guards who ask him what he's looking for around here. Luo doesn't reply, but covers his hand with electricity. The guys soon start to crack their knuckles to beat the deafness out of Luo, but they're both immediately shocked by a wave of electricity. As Luo makes his way in, he's told that his energy reserve is below 5%. Once inside, he mixes in with a crowd of people that seem to be having a party. Suddenly, a lady that's standing nearby calls out his name. She comes to hug one of his arms, and she asks him what he's doing in such an off place, but Luo is surprised to find Anna here. He becomes tense and wonders why he ran into this female dog in this place. Unlike her previous devilish demeanor, Anna pleads that he leaves this place because it's dangerous here, and she informs him that her classmate tricked her into playing cards, and she lost 200,000 yuan in just 3 rounds, and they won't let her leave. Luo doesn't want to hear any of her crap, and one of the bouncers comes to ask him if he's trying to play hero, and he tells Luo to pay off her 200,000 yuan debt in that case. Luo gets a beautiful idea, but Anna asks him if he can lend her some money so the men can let her go, but he just smiles and pushes her hand away. Much to her surprise, he explains to the men that he didn't mean to meddle and escapes after telling the men to enjoy themselves. Anna is disappointed, but the guard behind her laughs and reminds her that she said the simp would help her pay her gambling debt. Anna explains that Luo wasn't like that before and guesses she wasn't just charming enough. Eventually, a guy named Zhao appears and tells the guard to send a few people to keep an eye on Luo because it's weird for a student to suddenly appear here. Zhao remembers looking into Luo's eye and how he got the feeling that he looked like someone who's killed before, and he wonders if he's been paranoid. Meanwhile, Luo notices some men looking for him, so he realizes he's been targeted. He blames Anna for this, and he remembers that the man who spotted him is named Zhao Eugene, also known as Viper, and he's one of Chang Shudong's 4 kings. He knows Zhao has a sharp mind that doesn't match his looks because he's Chang's strategist. Nearby, one of the guards wonders why the boss is acting paranoid over a student, so the other person replies that their boss made it this far because he's cautious. Luo realizes he only has power for 1 strike, so he rushes out at the men, and before they can figure out what's going on, he electrocutes both their heads so he can finish this quickly. After knocking the men out, he decides to sneak into the basement in peace, but someone points a gun to his head and mentions that boss Zhao was right after all. Luo is shocked, so the guy tells him he's in big trouble. In the casino, one of the waitresses gets alarmed because she heard something that sounded like gunshots. One of Zhao's men soon quiets everyone down and tells them their store is temporarily closed because of an unexpected incident, and they ask everyone to leave through the front door. After they clear out the people, the guy goes to inform Zhao. Zhao mentions that the kid acted suspiciously, and he's glad he made a backup plan. He says he trusts the methods of Pajin, the gunman he sent in, but he hopes the kid stays alive so he can find out who he really is. Inside, Luo looks back at the wall Pajin shot in to show him he's not playing. Pajin tells him to turn around with his hands on his head, without playing tricks if he doesn't want the next shot to go through his skull. Luo recognizes Pajin and flashes back to the time he encountered him in his past life. In a flashback, Luo laments that he gave all his food to Anna, and his stomach hurts from hunger. Suddenly, someone approaches him and throws him some food so he doesn't starve to death. Pajin tells him to come collect supplies with him from now on, and that saved him. In the present, Luo realizes he owed Pajin one back then and didn't expect to meet him again like this. He looks at him in surprise, so Pajin tells him to turn around and stop staring. Luo tries to explain that this is a mistake because he got lost and slipped in the bathroom, but Pajin tells him his job is to put a hole in his head and to give his excuses to Zhao. Luo sighs and decides to move along, but he suddenly notices an electricity switch nearby. As he moves forward, he lays a hand on it and starts to suck in the power in the entire building while he thinks about how Pajun is still so unlucky. When the lights go out, those in the casino wonder what's going on. So, Zhao sends some men to fix the power. He tells the others to guard the main entrance and watch out for ambushes because he believes the boy from before could just be a decoy for something bigger. Inside, Pajun fires shots at Luo, who moves out of the way at lightning speed after he's charged up. Pajun is surprised by his swift movements and wonders if he's even human. When Luo runs towards him, Pajun brings out a knife he has hidden up his sleeve and almost stabs him, but Luo jumps out of the way. Luo jokes that Pajun almost killed him and tells him he knew he'd still hide a spring-loaded dagger in his left arm, and Pajun wonders how this guy knows him. Luo realizes that Zhao probably would have sent people here after hearing the gunshot, so he doesn't have time for reunions. Luo lights up with electric current again, and as Pajun aims at him, he disappears from in front of him. Luo appears behind him, and as Pajun tries to stab him, he grabs his hand and electrocutes him. Suddenly, Luo notices fire coming from a nearby place, and the room soon explodes and comes down on both of them. Luo wonders what happened and if the electric charges hit a nearby gas line. Even though he absorbed the entire casino's electricity, he ended up using it all to avoid being killed by the explosion. Suddenly, he notices the explosion ripped an opening in the floor, and he realizes this is an unexpected bonus because the opening has exposed another entrance to the basement he didn't know about. As Luo moves ahead to enter the basement, Pajun comes to and recognizes the explosion was Luo's doing. So, he asks him why he didn't kill him. Pajun asks him why he didn't finish him off since it would have been easy, but Luo just stares at him. When he doesn't reply, Pajun gives him advice by saying Luo's little tricks don't hold a candle to his real boss, Changshu. Luo electrocutes Pajun again and says it's expected of a former Wolf Squad captain that he's still conscious after having been shocked previously. After he's knocked out, Luo jumps down to the basement and says there's nothing to talk about when it comes to Changshu since he'll soon be a dead man anyway. Meanwhile, Zhao is informed that the pipeline at the back of the hallway exploded, and Zhao wonders what has happened to Pajun. He's told that Pajun was found unconscious on the ground, so Zhao thinks deeply. When Anna suddenly laments that the loud noise scared her enough to twist her back, Zhao just hisses and gives her a slap befitting of her dirty mouth. Shocked, Anna asks him what's wrong, so he asks her if she thinks he's stupid since she calls Luo a simp, and he was able to take down Changshu's #1 fighter. Zhao orders his men to tie her up, so she pleads with him that this is a misunderstanding, and she tries to explain she doesn't know anything because she's not close with Luo. Zhao tells the rest of them to come with him. Confused, the guards ask him why they're headed towards the other place when the explosion happened in the bathroom, but Zhao tells them the kid's target is definitely the storage vault. Meanwhile, Luo gets to the entrance of the storage vault. He breaks the door open with a kick and heads down the stairs. He realizes this is the so-called underground warehouse, and he remarks that it's way too big because it's practically an underground fortress. He notices emergency food, water, clothing, solar panels, and even an armory, so he wonders what Changshu Dong is trying to do. Luo goes into a craze like a kid in a candy store and starts absorbing things left and right until he gets his task completion to 77%. Suddenly, he notices some shiny crystals nearby and remembers that these things only appeared after the apocalypse, so he wonders why they're here. He soon realizes that Chang Shudong's bunker prep seems to be for the apocalypse, too, and he wonders if it's just a coincidence or there was a secret he didn't know in his past life. After giving it some thought, he decides to ignore all that and goes into Smeagol mode and starts hogging stones like they're his precious. He decides to absorb stones and awaken powers before others, but the system informs him that energy stone absorption is currently disabled because he has a system. After the system bursts his bubble, he laments about the restriction and decides to stash the stone for now so he can research it later. After his task completion reaches 100%, he's told that he has completed his Doomsday survival preparation task. He gets a reward for completing the task called energy conversion, so Luo asks if that's different from when he absorbed energy directly. The system explains that energy conversion can convert any energy and objects into the host power with no energy loss at all. Luo's dumb brain interprets it as a plus version of his previous power, so the system agrees that it's a valid interpretation. Since the task is done, Luo considers looting the other rooms, but Zhao soon finds him. Zhao's men point their guns at Luo, and Zhao calls him a pesky little mouse that's trapped in the storeroom. He orders his men to kill him, but Luo jumps out of sight with great speed. Later, the men look around, and one of them comes to report that they can't find anyone else here with Luo. Zhao can't believe what he heard because all the supplies are gone, but they sealed all the exits when they came, and there was no damage to the walls, either. He wonders how Luo was able to move everything in such short time, and wonders if he's one of them. So he tells his men to stay alert and not let the kid leave alive. Meanwhile, Luo realizes he got too cocky and wasted too much time scavenging such a massive bunker. He notices the guards have heavy firepower, but he's glad he found a dark place to hide, so he decides to wait. Since he has a bit of electricity left, he considers waiting for them to get close so he can act. Unfortunately for him, he's never read Mike Tyson's quote that everyone has a plan until they're punched in the face. The guards come in through the back door instead and find him, so Luo realizes he's cooked. Realizing he has no choice, he speedruns towards them and goes all in to test his new power. As the guards shoot, they're surprised that this guy can move so fast. When Luo is nicked in the palm, blood oozes out, but a monster-like mouth suddenly appears from his hand, and he wonders if this is the energy conversion power. He retreats backward, so the guard wonders if he hit him, but the other guy can't fathom the crazy stuff he just saw. Luo is told that the energy transfer is complete, so Luo kicks him in the face with the force of a flying bullet. Luo is surprised that he was able to convert the kinetic energy from the bullets to another force, but he now wonders how he can stow away the strange mouth. He wonders if he'll always have a mouth on his hand like the dude from Parasite, because that'll be bad if he ever tries to beat his meat. Some guys soon appear behind him, and another guard tells Luo he's going to kill him. Some other guy reminds that guard not to let his guard down, because Luo took out Pajuan, no pun intended. The guard insists there's nothing to be afraid of because there's nothing fancy Luo can do in this situation, but Luo soon turns back towards them with a hand that has a devilish smile. Shocked, the guards start firing bullets because crap just hit the fan, but Luo just absorbs the energy from their bullets. Once he does that, he returns the favor to one of the guards by landing a kick in his face that's equivalent to the force of his bullet, and the other guys start freaking out. Luo realizes these guys haven't seen mutants yet because the apocalypse hasn't started, so he grabs their guns and lets them fire rounds into his hands. They start to plead that he stay away, so when they run out of bullets, he slams them both against the wall by swinging them with their own guns. When Luo throws out the bullets he absorbed, the cracks in his hands close up, which relieves him because he doesn't want to move around with two mouths on his hands. While he wonders if he can use this for more than just kinetic conversion and strength enhancement, someone aims down at him with a sniper rifle. Suddenly, Luo is hit by a bullet, and the sniper tells the others the hit is confirmed, and that should finish him off. However, the sniper hears a sudden noise and notices Luo leaping towards them over a long distance with vengeance in his eyes. Luo breaks into where they are and knocks several men into the lower floor, and he curses at the sniper because the bullet hurt. The men are shocked, but they decide not to panic because Luo's alone, but they didn't consider the fact that he just survived a sniper bullet. Luo is glad he tested using the absorbed energy to reinforce his body because he would have been killed. Because he's unsure there may be more ambushes, he decides to escape quickly, but the men soon open fire on him. He uses his hands to absorb the bullets and converts all the energy and releases it at once. Doing that, he's able to charge through all the men and knock them down like billiard balls. After he knocks out the men, Zhao appears behind him and calls him a little punk, then says he's one of those types, too, since he can make bullets and matter disappear immediately. Zhao asks him if that's a teleportation type ability, so Luo kicks him and tells him to get lost. However, Zhao stops his kick with a mutated arm and tells him his kick is quite soft. Zhao enlarges his hands against him and tells him it's time to die, and it's at this point Luo realizes he fudged up. Zhao covers his entire body with one huge arm to crush him, causing blood to spew out of Luo's mouth. Shocked, Luo runs from his hold using his electric speed, and he wonders how this guy already has powers before the apocalypse. He wonders if it's related to the energy stone he found. Zhao stomps him again with his huge hand, so Luo quickly uses energy absorption to absorb the energy of the hit. The hit knocks him back, so he realizes energy absorption can't even fully cancel it out. He didn't see Zhao able to use his power so well in his last life, and he wonders if he was hiding his strength all along. Soon after, Zhao tells him that he doesn't care who sent him, but stepping into this place is the path to death. Zhao also confesses that he treasures talent and such rare powers. So he asks Luo to return everything he stole, beg for forgiveness, and swear loyalty to them. So he'll let this slide. However, Luo tells Zhao he's hilarious because he's not giving it back. So Zhao says he'll take his corpse and report back to Lord Chang. Zhao jumps at him to see how tough he really is, and Luo realizes that this guy's metal power is both offensive and defensive. So using energy like before won't even scratch him. Luo charges up a punch with much of his energy, and he decides to focus it all on one point, and that breaks Zhao's metallic hands into bits, shocking the old man. After that, Luo picks the old man up. So Zhao asks him what's wrong with his power because his strength keeps fluctuating, and he asks him if he's trying to trick him. However, Luo asks him how he got his powers, but Zhao just laughs that this guy has powers, and he doesn't even know where his power came from. When he doesn't speak, Luo offers to let him take his little secret to hell. Zhao suggests he thinks things through because they can still talk business with his ability, and he warns him that Lord Chang won't let him go if he dares to lay a finger on him. So Luo drops him. Amused, Zhao supposes that Luo dropped him because he's afraid of Lord Chang. But Luo prepares to finish him off, and he tells him to wait a little longer at the Bridge of Helplessness because Lord Chang will soon come to join him. Before he can finish him off, Pajuan shows up to protect Zhao with a blade. Shocked, Luo asks him to get out of the way so he doesn't get killed because a normal person like him can't meddle in this. However, Pajuan tells him he can't let Zhao Yujin die yet, even though he's trembling. After hesitating for a while, Luo asks Pajuan what they used to threaten him, but Pajuan doesn't reply. Nearby, Zhao commands Pajuan for getting here in time, and he tells Pajuan he'll be credited for this when he reports things to Lord Chang. And he adds that he may be merciful to let his daughter and wife go. When Luo hears that, he calls Zhao despicable, but Zhao takes it as a compliment. Eventually, Zhao calls both of them trash and says he can't let them live since they've seen him in this form. So he covers himself with his metallic power. After he covers up, Zhao promises to put in a good word for Pajuan with Lord Chang after his death. And Luo notices a cracking sound. They soon notice grenades falling to the ground, and they realize they're in big trouble. The grenades soon go off one by one, and the entire place is destroyed. But Luo punches a hole in the ground and drags himself and Pajuan through it before they're destroyed by the explosion. He wasn't entirely sure he remembered correctly, but he's glad to find out there really is another level beneath the casino. He lands with Pajuan, and when he considers the other thugs, he realizes Zhao is really inhuman to have held all of them captive by taking their loved ones. When Pajuan gets up, he confesses that he didn't know there'd be a place like this under the casino, and he asks Luo how he knew about it. For a moment, both men look at each other in silence. And Pajuan finally breaks the ice by telling Luo he has no reason to fight him since Zhao is not here. Luo finally walks away angry that he was unable to finish off that foolish Zhao. However, Pajuan tells him Zhao can't die yet until he finds out where he locked up his wife and daughter. Pajuan also tells Luo that he needs to treat his wounds fast or he'll lose his eyes and legs. He finally acknowledges the fact that Luo has saved his life twice now after taking the brunt of the explosion for him, and he says he doesn't have a way to repay such a kindness. However, he promises to give him his life in return if he manages to find his family. However, Luo just finds it amusing that Pajuan also appears like a character from a soldier-turned-king novel before the apocalypse. Eventually, he tells Pajuan that he's not interested in his life, and he focuses on treating the wounds. Pajuan protests that Luo needs to get out of here because there's no medical supplies. But Luo suddenly makes medical supplies appear out of nowhere. Surprised, Pajuan asks if this is an ability and asks if Zhao's strange look earlier was also an ability. Confused, Luo asks him if Zhao didn't tell him. So Pajuan asks him if he really thinks they'd share this kind of intel with some flunky they had to threaten with family to make work. Luo remembers the apocalypse hasn't started yet, and it's normal that Pajuan doesn't know about it. So he hands some medical supplies to treat his wounds too. Confused, Pajuan asks him why he's helping him since he seriously tried to kill him just now. So Luo tells Pajuan he can't afford to die here if he wants to find his family. He tells Pajuan he knows about this lowest level of the building, and he suggests they search together because his family might be here. Pajuan apologizes for shooting him because he thought he was here for a double cross, and says he didn't expect that he wasn't with them at all. Pajuan says it's amazing to find out he's a good guy. So Luo laughs maniacally and says he can loot all 3 underground levels clean when he goes off to find his family. Pajuan finds him cringy and asks why he just ruined the moment with his weirdness. While they walk around, Pajuan wonders why there's a casino under the first basement supermarket, a warehouse under the casino, and a tunnel under that. So he wonders what Chang Shudong is planning. They seem to be going through a long sewer. But Luo tells Pajuan not to worry because they're close. They soon reach an entrance and Pajun wonders what this place is. Meanwhile, Luo realizes things are just as he thought. In the previous life, after the apocalypse, Chang Shudong used this place to lock up anyone who wouldn't obey him, and he lived here for some time. Judging by the iron doors he's seeing there, he realizes it's been in use even before the apocalypse. When he considers the power stones, the warehouse, the constant rooms underground, he realizes Chang is a monster. Eventually, he suggests to Pajun that they loot this place first. When they enter, they hear the voice of people sobbing, and Pajun is shocked that this is a prison where Chang Shudong hid people. He approaches one of the prison doors to ask those in there if they are all right. And he asks them what this place is and what happened to them. One of them asks him to kill her because she doesn't want to turn into a monster. Confused, Pajun asks her what she means and asks her if she's seen a young woman with a child. However, Luo tells Pajun to ask later because they have something else to deal with. From a nearby door, they hear a loud thumping sound. The monster behind the door soon pulls the door open and Luo sees a monstrosity with several eyes looking at him. Suddenly, a horde of monstrous creatures come out through the door and Luo wonders where these mutants are coming from when the apocalypse hasn't even begun yet. He realizes they're in trouble because he's already used up all his energy to block the explosion earlier. But the monsters don't seem to care about all that. While Pajun wonders what the heck is going on, Luo realizes he can't run away because there are still girls locked up in the GT. So he considers luring away the monsters. Suddenly, Pajun brings out his gun and blows off one of the monsters' heads and starts firing frantically. He soon runs out of bullets. So Luo quickly pulls him out of the way before he becomes monster food. Shocked, Pajun asks Luo what these things are. So Luo tells him they're low-level mutants, and he tells him to stay calm because bullets won't do much against them. He warns Pajun to stop shooting because he's only attracting more of them, and he tells him he may have another way. In a flashback to the time when the apocalypse had started, a group of men try to defend an area from the monsters, and one of them asks if there's any news from the camp. He's told they got orders to hold out a bit longer, which shocks the man, because they'll be buried in mutant crap if reinforcements don't come soon. This man is the Warlord Corps Commander, an A-rank enhancement ability user named Xiao Jiantian, and he wonders how the fools from the camp can keep telling them to hold on against such a tide of beasts. While they're fighting, the men suddenly notice a strange occurrence in the light. So Xiao is relieved that reinforcements have finally arrived. Suddenly, a huge blast of ice hits the monsters below, and Shun, the Queen of Ice, appears with an ice sword. The guy who reported to Xiao is surprised they sent just one woman to help them. But Xiao tells him to shut up if he doesn't want to die, because he can't believe those old guys actually let this goddess come out. The other guy wonders if she's really that legendary, and he watches her take out all the remaining mutants with just one strike. The other soldiers start to praise her because she saved them. Meanwhile, Shun leaves the rest of the monsters to the men since they should be able to handle it. But she wonders why a beast hide appeared so close to the camp. Suddenly, another monster appears and squeezes life out of a soldier that's standing nearby. And Shun is surprised that this monster, known as Half-Face, has appeared. She tells the other men to retreat immediately because they can't handle this one. So Xiao tells the men to start running immediately if they don't want to die. Shin knows that Half-Face is a Lord-class mutant, and she wonders if it's the one that created the beast tide. And she also wonders if this is a trap because she has no choice but to fight. She rushes toward the monster. Sometime later, she wakes up after losing consciousness. When she looks around, she notices bandages around her body and realizes her wounds have been dressed. The last memory she has is of her fight with the Lord-class monster, and she's surprised that she actually survived. She wonders where she is and who took off her clothes. But next to her, Luo asks her if she's finally awake. He tells her he found her collapsed while he was out scavenging nearby. So he asks her how she got so badly hurt. He also gives her some canned food he was able to find even though it's rare. In the present, Pajun has been launched into a sea of mutating liquid, and he seems to be drinking a load of it. Meanwhile, Luo remembers that he didn't see Shun after she recovered from that injury, and he wonders why she's in one of Chang Shudong's facilities. Shun, however, looks bizarre and soon starts to complain about how much her head hurts. When her breath becomes chilly, she screams that it hurts so much, and she releases an attack of ice to kill all of them. Luo realizes she's trying to destroy the place, and he wonders if she's insane. So he calls out her full name. He dodges the ice attack so he can stop her because they won't be able to survive if this building collapses since they're so far down underground. When he gets close, he asks her if she's trying to get killed, and he tells her calm down. He mistakenly touches her rockets, and when he realizes what he's done, he jumps back in shock and apologizes that that's not what he meant. This makes her angrier, so she tries to poke him full of ice. Luo tries to grab a hold of one of the ice, and he starts to absorb its energy using the monstrous mouth in his hand. He quickly uses the energy transfer to blast away the ice attack before he becomes a human pin cushion. He asks her if she's lost her mind, and he tells her to calm down first, then electrocutes her. When she passes out, Luo rushes to check on Pajuan, who fell into a tank of mutant liquid. When he doesn't hear any sound, he concludes that it's over for Pajuan. Finally, he drags him out, but Pajuan starts to cough much to his surprise. Luo is surprised he's still breathing, but since he's soaked in that liquid for so long, he considers finishing him off before he mutates later and teams up with the other woman. However, he changes his mind because he remembers from his past life that Pajuan should be fine and should successfully develop abilities. He decides to leave him for now and go face Shun. So he looks around for something to tie her up to be safe, but he doesn't realize she's getting back up. When she gets up, she goes into another rage, and he wonders how she got up so fast. This time her face transforms into that of a monster's ice beast, and Luo wonders if her ice armor made his electrocution less effective. She attacks him with another ice attack, so he blasts through the ice with his bullet kick. Angry, Shun roars at him and fires more ice arrows at his face. So Luo quickly absorbs them with his hands and jumps backwards. He realizes this is endless, and when Shun keeps fighting to kill him, he notices her appearance is starting to mutate too. He realizes that she won't be able to come back once she becomes a mutant if he doesn't stop this. But he can't because electrical attacks aren't effective and energy kicks can't get close. Suddenly, the system tells him to consider unlocking the genetic lock. So he asks the system what that means. Before he can finish reading what's on the screen, Shun pierces the screen with another barrage of ice, startling him. When he falls backwards, he trips on Pajuan. But he soon gets fired with a series of ice attacks, and he falls into the pool of mutant liquid. While he's submerged, he sees the genetic lock screen, and he sees it's progressed by 10%. So he wonders if it's a mission reward skill. He's told that the genetic lock skill allows him to devour viruses to enhance strength. So he's asked if he wants to unlock the skill. However, Luo wonders where he's expected to find a large amount of virus at such a critical moment. But he's soon gurgling a sea of virus. He decides to activate the skill, and a whirlpool of energy breaks out of the mutant liquid pool, startling Shun. Shun realizes that stuff just got real when Luo breaks out like Ong while he's in avatar mode. Luo comes out with a devilishly badass-looking form, and his eyes appear to have mutated. He looks at his new form and doesn't know what to think of it. Suddenly, he starts to freak out that he's become a mutant. Even though he's still conscious, he realizes he won't be able to move around much because if the camp sees him after the apocalypse, they'll execute him on the spot. Suddenly, Luo looks to the side, and Shun rains down a mountain of ice on him. Somehow, Luo is able to hold up the huge mountain of ice with one hand to save Pajuan from being crushed, and he wonders if he'll be able to change back. When Shun notices him pushing back the ice with one hand, she screams in horror and starts to roar like a monster. She soon targets him with ice spears again and tells him to die. However, Luo blocks the ice attacks with one hand and decides to deal with Shun first before trying to turn back. When he realizes he can block the attacks just by raising his hand, he figures that his strength and defense has gone up several levels, which is awesome. He runs out to meet her, and he asks her if she's Shun Xingyu, but she doesn't answer and keeps breathing like an animal. He wonders if she can still understand human speech, but she just charges at him maniacally. She tries to crush him with her ice-reinforced hands, but Luo blocks it with one hand, which surprises Shun. She jumps backwards and tries to blast him again. So Luo gets angry and starts to pound the wall of ice in front of her and asks her to calm down. He soon smashes the wall of ice, and he tells her he's trying to help her. He soon lands a punch in her gut, and she falls down flat. After she drops, her suit dissipates, and Luo goes back to worrying about if he'd be able to turn back from his mutant form. He decides to cover her up first, and he wonders why she also doesn't have clothes on again, just like the time he met her in the apocalypse. Suddenly, Luo falls down flat, and he's surprised when he's unable to move. He soon starts to feel intense pain, and he starts to regret the fact that the system didn't tell him the side effects of this form. He realizes this is bad because he's not been able to tie up Shun and Pajuan before they wake up, but he's unable to stop himself from passing out. Soon after, Shun wakes up, and she finds Luo drooling by her side. Confused, she covers herself up and wonders what on earth is going on. Later, Luo wakes up on Shun's lap, and she asks him if he's awake. When he sees her, he angrily tries to get up, but she tells him not to move around and lie down a bit longer because he's still injured. When he sees her smile, and probably her big jugs from the angle he's in, he starts to blush. Simp MC. Eventually, he asks her when she regained consciousness. So, She explains that she was conscious all along even while they were fighting, but it felt like something else was taking over her body, but she thanks him for helping her. She soon asks if they've met before because he seems familiar, but Luo is stunned. He quickly gets up and asks her if she also came back from after the apocalypse, but she asks him what he's talking about. Eventually, Luo tells her he's just saying things. He also realizes that he needs to pay attention to find out if there are other people who came back from the past apocalypse. So he asked her how she got caught by Chang Shudong and why she's in this place. Shin doesn't seem to know Chang Shudong, so she explains that she was brought here tied up. She explains that she can't remember anything, but while her body was being controlled, she could remember hearing that the people who took her call themselves by the name Chaos. That intrigues Luo, so he wonders where they came from since he's never heard of that name in his past life. He wonders if they're using Chang Shudong's place and how they're connected. Eventually, Shan tells him that the organization is deeply hidden and their methods are extraordinary, but she's glad he wrecked this place and woke her up. She soon jumps on him to hug him and promises to follow him from now on, but Luo doesn't know what on earth she's talking about. He soon pushes her away, and he tells her she's overthinking things if she wants to hide behind him to avoid that chaos group. He turns back and says that he'll get dragged into it if they come after her again, and he's not looking to mess with some random organization. He says he has other things to do, but he can't believe he just pushed away such a beautiful lady. But he recalls that thanks to Anna, his PTSD is acting up. Eventually, Shun tells him she's really thought about revenge. She says she'd have just become their killing machine if he hadn't woken her up, but she says she can't remember her name or background anymore. But all she has left is this sense of familiarity and warmth from him. She asks him where else she'd go if she doesn't follow him, but Luo just takes everything she's saying with a grain of salt because of his terrible experience with women. He wonders why she has amnesia, but also considers that she'll be a huge asset for him considering how strong she will become. He also figures that Chaos and Chang must be connected in some way since they're using his base. Eventually, he tells Shun that it's fine for her to tag along as long as she follows his orders. She becomes excited and rushes to hug him, but she moves so quickly that she falls on top of him. In a seductive way, she grabs his face and says she'll definitely behave and listen, but Pajuan rushes forward to rescue Luo Su, and he tries to stab Shun in the head for ambushing Luo Su. However, Shun freezes Pajuan's arm, and she almost pokes out his eyes with an ice sword that comes out her hand. Luo Su tells them to stop, and he explains to Pajuan that she's not an enemy. Pajuan asks him who the girl is, so Luo Su says it's a long story, but she's with him from now on. Eventually, he asks Pajuan if he didn't notice anything weird after soaking in that solution, so Pajuan tells him he didn't notice anything. After some silence, Luo Su tells him he'll mutate later, so he'll kill him then, but he asks him to go clean up for now. Pajuan is terrified by how Luo Su says such scary things with a calm face, so Luo Su grabs some clothes he took from the supermarket from his system storage, and he gives the both of them. Shun soon starts to change in front of them, shocking the both of them, so Luo Su pushes her into the hall outside, so she can change there. Meanwhile, Pajuan just stands with his frozen hand, and he asks them how he's going to resolve that. They soon return to the prison, and Shun breaks open one of the doors and tells the girls not to be afraid because they're safe now. When she lets them out, she explains to them that those who want to leave can go now, but she suggests staying since she knows some of them don't have anywhere to go. Behind her, Pajuan asks Luo if what he said about the end of the world is true, so Luo asks him how he can still be in doubt when he just pulled things out of a void. Pajuan realizes that's true, so he explains that he may need to say goodbye to him for now, because there's still some time. Luo realizes he's planning to find his wife and children in the next few days, and Luo remembers that he never mentioned having a child and wife in his past life. Because of that, Luo pulls out an armory of guns and throws it at him because going out without them would be suicide. Luo tells Pajuan that this dungeon is perfect for surviving the impact of the apocalypse, and he's sure wherever Zhao is hiding his family will be the same, so he assures him they'll be fine. He suggests Pajuan spend the next few days training those girls and fixing up the dungeon because they need to prepare well because Chang won't let this attack slide. He also says that when the time comes to deal with the issue of his family, he's going to take him to ask personally. Sometime later, Master Chang commends some guy named Ouyang because he did well this time. Ouyang, who looks like the typical bootlicker, says he personally handled Master Chang's order for the goods, so there's nothing to worry about because he delivered everything without missing a single thing. Eventually, Chang asks him if he secretly looked at this batch of goods, and Ouyang asks Master Chang if he's joking. Chang tells him he's not, so he asks Ouyang to turn around and take a look. And when Ouyang looks behind him, he sees dozens of people kept locked up in vials filled with mutant liquid. Chang announces that these people are the foundation stones of his new world, but Ouyang wonders if these are really people because of their monstrous look. So he asks Chang what these things are. Chong soon twists his neck with one hand because he's asking too many questions. He adds that only the dead can keep secrets, and trash like this would have had a hard time surviving in the apocalypse anyway. When Zhao shows up, Chong asks him what he's doing here instead of watching the casino, but Zhao starts to sweat profusely, and he explains that the casino and the warehouse were raided, and they lost everything and a lot of men. He explains that some kid went straight for the warehouse, and he doesn't know where the intel leaked from. Chong is surprised just one kid could do that, so he asks Zhao how he could dare to come see him alive. As he's about to punch him, Zhao explains that the kid used some strange spatial ability, and he asks Chong to let Mad Leopard come with him, and he promises they'll capture the kid. That intrigues Chong, so he stops his punch midway to ask about the spatial ability. The impact from the punch destroys the wall behind Zhao and causes the building materials to fall several floors to the street outside. Zhao is relieved he's not the one blown out, so Chong tells him Judgment Day is almost here. So, he tells Zhao to stay put for the next few days until Judgment Day passes. Then he'll send him out with Mad Leopard to bring back this kid dead or alive. Chong reminds Zhao that he doesn't need to emphasize how important the warehouse supplies and those things in the lab are for the new world, and he asks Zhao to think about the consequences if he messes this up. Later on, Chong thinks about the spatial ability Zhao mentioned, and he wonders if this new kid is a monkey who escaped from another lab, but he finds it interesting. Several days later, several asteroids crash into satellites and break into the Earth's atmosphere, so the apocalypse arrived as scheduled. The rocks destroy a lot of buildings, and Zhao watches the whole thing on the TV from inside their bunker. He asks Chong if this is the Judgment Day he spoke about earlier, but Chong says it's still early, and this is still nothing. Meanwhile, in one of the destroyed buildings, some guy wonders what's going on, and he sees some other guy walking around, so he figures he must have survived the hit. The man rushes to ask the guy if he's okay, but the man turns back towards him with a monstrous face, causing him to tumble backwards. Before he knows what's going on, the mutated man leaps on him and starts clawing out his face. Everywhere else, people turn into mutants, and the entire city goes into chaos. Meanwhile, Luo and the others feel the impact of the earthquake when the asteroids start hitting the Earth. When the others panic, Pajun calms them down and reminds them Luo had already notified them of this apocalypse, so he tells them to do as they were trained. While that's going on, Shun keeps walking around practically in a swimsuit, and she wonders how Luo knew all these things were going to happen. While this is going on, Luo asks the system to show him the status panel. So, the system shows him his status. At this point, his evolution has reached 10%, and he's unlocked 3 skills, which include energy conversion, bullet flying kick, and lightning swift. He notices that all his attributes have increased by more than 3 times after unlocking genetic lock, so he figures that should be enough for now. The system soon informs him that there's an emergency mission content after the apocalypse. Apparently, for the next 24 hours, all mutants will have maximum hostility towards him, and mutants in the vicinity will target and attack him, so the system activates the mission. Luo accepts the mission, so the system informs him that a large amount of mutant energy has been detected, and the others are shocked to hear footsteps approaching. The system reminds Luo to survive, so Luo heads out to face the monsters who jump towards him like he's their long-lost cousin. However, Luo remains unfazed, and he tells everyone to act according to plan. Shin says she understands, so she seals the entrance to where they are with ice so the monsters can't escape. Suddenly, the monsters realize they're the preys, and Luo surrounds his body with fiery chains. He remembers that he died pathetically in his previous life, but he promises to change things this time. When Luo's form starts to change, Shun recognizes that this is the strange aura that came from Luo that made her mutated form retreat. She believes it's like a higher mutant class, and Luo tells himself that he will win everything in this life until he stands at the pinnacle of the world. His eyes light up, and he starts hunting. Luo tells the monsters that their crystal cores will be worth more than gold from now on, but he's suddenly shocked when he notices he only has one monstrous hand. He demands to know why the system didn't tell him there was a half-form transformation. So, the monsters move closer when they notice his trouble. However, Luo asks them to hold on for a bit while he clarifies things with this lousy system, but they soon start jumping on him. When they ambush him, Shun is worried, but the mouth in Luo's hand starts to consume one of the monsters. Luo gets annoyed because the hand isn't under his control, so he warns the hand to stop acting on its own. He asks the system what's going on, so he's told that he's absorbing large amounts of crystal core energy and he can upgrade to a new system. Despite Luo's confusion, he's told that the system is upgrading and it'll be temporarily unresponsive. Luo starts to freak out, and he tells the system not to start upgrading on its own, but the system starts to shut down because it needs to shut down. The system doesn't listen despite Luo's protest, and our boy asks why it couldn't wait till he finished off this wave of mutants. The monsters start to crush him, so Luo gets angry and angrily destroys the monsters around him with his huge hand. Suddenly, some tendrils sprout from Luo's body and start gobbling up crystal cores from the mutants' bodies. Luo notices that the more the hand devours cores, the fuzzier his mind gets, and he wonders if he just acted out angrily because of the hand's influence too. Meanwhile, the other ladies ask Pajin why Boss Luo isn't moving, and they ask if something is wrong with him. Shin decides that Luo needs help, but her attention soon returns to the ice door that's been broken by some monsters. A few other monsters rush into the building until there are too many. Shin swings into action to help Luo, but Luo warns her not to come near because he can't control himself. Meanwhile, Zhao notices that all creatures in a certain area have gathered near their casino. Chong finds it odd since these mutants usually don't gather like this, and Zhao wonders if the kid knew about Judgment Day, and he did something to lure them there. Inside the bunker, Luo realizes they're doomed, but the system soon informs him that its update is complete, and a strange energy bursts out of Luo's body and throws the mutants away. The system mentions that his genetic unlock level has reached 20%, so the new system has been activated, so Luo has gained the form called Tyrant. Luo Chuan goes into a rampage and starts tearing up the monsters like bacon and screaming the word kill. He even goes as far as tearing out some of their skins with his teeth, and he roars like a dangerous beast. Pajin becomes worried, and Shin realizes that Luo Chuan looks just like she did after she came out of the vial, and she guesses he can't also control himself right now. The other monsters become spooked, but Luo Chuan goes into a maniacal rampage and starts ripping their limbs apart while panting like an enraged beast. After taking them all out, he lands in front of Shun, and she tries to call out his name. When he turns to her, he roars angrily and leaps towards her, so Shun confirms that he's lost control. She quickly creates an ice shield and asks him to calm down and wake up, but he slams into her shield. Shun becomes terrified by his aura, and she realizes she's unable to move. Suddenly, Luo flashes back to a time in his past life after he rescued Shun, and she asked him how long she's been recovering here. He tells her she's been recovering for nearly 3 months, and says her injuries should have healed long ago. Eventually, she asks him if he won't come back to the base with her, so he tells her he's totally powerless, and he'll be dead weight if he tags along with her. He also says he doesn't want to deal with those people's face every day. Shin finally tells him she's been healed for a while, but she's scared that they may never see each other again once they part. So he tells her not to worry because he'll visit the camp once he's done with what he needs to do. He assures her that they'll meet again if fate permits. In the present, his exterior starts to disintegrate, and he tells Shun that they finally meet again. Shun is confused, but she helps him up when he collapses and asks if he's okay. Meanwhile, the other ladies breathe a sigh of relief when they realize it's finally over. The others are shocked that he was able to wipe out all those monsters by himself, but Pajin wishes he has the power of an awakened so he could help out. Finally, he tells the ladies to stop standing around and clean up the site and get the gate reassembled to prepare for the next attack. Meanwhile, Anna asks Zhao why he brought her to such a place after he said this was an important mission, but he tells her to quit whining because he wouldn't have bothered if it were not for Lord Chang's orders. Suddenly, they appear in the presence of a giant who asks Zhao if he brought him a woman, but Anna freezes in fear when she sees him. Zhao tells the man to cut the crap with him and tells him that Lord Chang wants him to come with him to the casino, and he tells the man, whom he refers to as Sang Bao, to bring anyone he can use. Shortly after, a group of soldiers enter a plane to go on a mission to occupy a place called Area A and then wipe out any other factions in their assigned territories. Behind them, Zhao and Anna watch, and Anna is excited that young Master Chang's influence is so massive. She's concerned about the group of people she's with because rumor has it that they're elite forces deployed specifically to deal with ability users. They're called executioners, so she wonders why they're being moved out just to deal with Luo, who she considers a punk. Eventually, Sang appears and takes his men with him. One of them mentions to him that Zhao had said Luo's just a brat, and it's questionable whether he even survived the mutant attacks, so he asks Sang why they all have to go. Sang dismisses his concerns and tells him he just got intel that there's a lab under the casino where that woman is kept. The others are terrified because they know he's referring to Subject K-423, Ice Queen. Meanwhile, in the bunker, Shin asks Pajin where Luo is because she can't find him. Pajin starts to sweat suspiciously and says Luo said he was going to scout the surroundings after he woke up, so he should be back soon. Shun is surprised he went out and asks about the state of his body, but Pajin assures her he said he was fine, but he thinks Lord Luo didn't want to hurt them. However, Shun protests that he can't be fine, especially since his hair color changed like that. Pajin tells her Luo didn't seem concerned, but Shin wonders why he always insists on handling everything himself, and she asks why he can't trust them a little more. She wonders if he thinks she's too weak. Meanwhile, Luo heads out into the street looking like Quicksilver from X-Men, and he smashes into mutants in his way using his badass power bike. Finally, he reaches a vantage point and asks the system to open the map. While he looks around, he confirms that the city's layout around the meteor crater is split into zones, just like he remembered from his past life. If nothing changes, ability users and high-level mutants will start to seize and merge territories over the next few years and eventually form stable power zones. Since the casino is still a bit far away from the nearest crater, Luo decides it's a decent place to hide and slowly develop, as long as he can first clear out the ability user factions that are here. As for the mutants, he remembers that there were no Lord-class mutants around this area before, but there seems to be another problem. Soon, he asks the Tyrant system what exactly his ability is and what Tyrant means, but he doesn't get an answer. Eventually, he asks the system to open status panel, so the system congratulates him that his gene lock has unlocked to level 2. His evolution level is now 25%, his stats have shot up, and he's gained a unique skill called Tyrant's Wrath, so he wonders if that's the skill that made him lose control. If he hadn't snapped out in time, the consequences would have been unimaginable. He realizes that what Shin doesn't know is that no one else was controlling his body. He simply had the pure desire to kill every living being around him. He wonders what suddenly made him wake up, and he wonders if it was her completely non-resistant posture. More so, he suspects that this damn system seems to have an agenda of its own. Regardless, he decides they'll just use each other as long as it helps him take down Chang Shudong. He asks the system to show him detailed info on Tyrant's Wrath. So the system tells him that the skill allows all his stats to increase drastically, and he's able to crush all fools who dare to face the Tyrant head-on. Apparently, the Tyrant's Wrath requires a high concentration of virus as a medium. Without it, the host's life force will be severely drained and control is likely to be lost, so he's told to use it with caution. When Luo learns about the required high virus concentration, he decides to check out the meteor crater. Suddenly, he notices some soldiers being dispatched into the area. On the ground below him, a superior officer asks the soldiers if they've fully searched Area A, and they tell him the area is clear. The soldiers inform their captain, Captain Gu, that all the civilians should have been sent to the gathering point, so they ask her if they should head back. They keep calling her name when she doesn't respond, so she finally does and explains that she was thinking about some things. She asks the men if all the civilians they could find in the South District have been taken to the power plant. Then she says they'll advance towards the meteor crater soon, and tells the men to stay alert. Suddenly, Gu hears a sound and asks the others if they heard something like a motorcycle engine, which shouldn't be since everyone has been evacuated. The others can't hear it because of their headsets and the sound of the armored vehicle diesel engines. But Gu soon picks up the sound of a lot of mutants, so she tells the men to prepare for contact. Confused, the men go into position, but they don't see anything. Moments later, some mutants show up in the direction she told them about, so they open fire and start firing with their tankers. Meanwhile, Luo notices the fight between the soldiers and the monsters, and he's impressed by their intense firepower, so he concludes that they won't have a problem dealing with these low-level mutants. He also remembers that he survived in his past life because of the army's temporary shelter, but he remembers that they soon disappeared and stopped caring about city affairs, so he wonders what they were doing. Soon, one of the monsters catches his attention, and he realizes the monster is a miner. It's one of the earliest mutants formed in the crater from the meteor impact, and staying near the crater caused crystal-like fragments to grow on their skin. Generally, they like to live in groups of meteor craters with fragments to absorb energy, so Luo wonders how this one ended up here alone. A single one of these monsters is not to be underestimated, and Luo would have run in the past, but this time he puts on his hood and decides to join in on the fight. On the battlefield, Gu is shocked to see the miner close the distance and knock down one of her soldiers as well as some of the tanks. One of the soldiers comes out with an RPG to handle it, but the miner impales him before he can fire. They realize the mutant is pretty fast, and Gu watches as the corpse of the soldier that was just killed begins to crystallize. When a monster closes in on her, she manages to jump back before it can crush her, but she ends up falling on her side. She starts to cough, but manages to retrieve the RPG and blast the monster with it, and it starts to scream as part of its body is torn off by the intense heat. Gu is excited that it worked, but the monster soon recovers and roars at her, and Gu notices tentacles growing out of the wound and wonders if the monster is immortal. Suddenly, Gu hears the sound of the bike again, and Luo flies in from behind her and rides his bike into the monster's face. As he rams the bike into the monster's face, he has this twisted smirk on his face because he's enjoying this a bit too much. Using the tires of the bike, he knocks off the monster's head, and when he comes down, Gu asks him if he's human. Immediately, Luo recognizes her as Guo, but he wonders how she almost got killed by a miner. Guo tells the soldiers to put the guns down because it's a human, and the others ask him how he can ride a bike around at such a time, and they ask if he's crazy. Luo realizes she still doesn't know about ability users at this time. In his previous life, she was a famous ability user that belonged to a military ability user squad, and she was quite friendly to ordinary people. If the military hadn't suddenly withdrawn from the settlement area, he knew he and Pajun could have lived a decent life under their organization. Luo tells her they'll talk later, so he faces the monster as it starts to rejoin its dismembered head. The others are shocked that it could resuscitate itself, so Luo tells them to move aside. When Luo faces the monster head-on, the others wonder if he's crazy since that monster flipped over an armored vehicle. However, Luo tells them to stop talking nonsense and to not get in his way. He brings out a blade and cuts off the monster's head. Once he does that, he covers his body with electric current and rips out the monster's crystal core, which he had been looking for all along. Apparently, this is a highly concentrated crystal core formed from staying in the meteor zone for a long time, and unlike other mutants, the miner's body depends entirely on this. The only way to shut down the miner is to remove this crystal core. Usually, these miners have extra hard virus crystals on their bodies, but Guo blew up the outer shell before, so that saved him a lot of trouble. However, he wonders how this miner came so far from the meteor crater. Suddenly, the miner starts to speak and says something about the power being the Lord's apostle. Luo is surprised that the miner can talk, but the beast keeps talking about coming out to look for something it has found. Suddenly, the tyrant system shows up and activates a hidden mission with unknown content. Luo gets tired of this system's crap, and he realizes the system isn't up to any good. The system informs him that he has discovered his talent skill, and that may unlock the next step. However, Luo wonders what a talent skill is, but he also notices this mission doesn't have a time limit and no mention of any punishment. He decides to ignore it for now, since he's been outside for a while. So he decides to go back as long as he can confirm that the skill won't randomly go berserk. Soon, the system informs him that the small crystal fragments left on the ground are meteor crater pieces, and the system advises him to collect them. So he does. Eventually, Guo coughs to draw his attention, and she thanks him for helping them. She introduces herself as the captain of the city's search and rescue team, and asks what his name is. Luo knows that they'll soon enter a chaotic period where various factions mark their territories, so it's better not to get involved right now. As he's about to speak, some helicopters fly over them, and one of the soldiers asks if they're military helicopters. Guo says she doesn't know what faction they're from, so Luo tells her he has to go. He knows only Chang's people would be showing off at a time like this, and he realizes the supermarket area is in danger, and he needs to get back quickly. As he's about to zoom off, he remembers something, so he tells Guo that he needs to warn her that the noise from those helicopters will make all the mutants in this area go crazy, so he tells her to be careful and zooms off. Guo considers him a strange guy, and one of the soldiers asks her why she's letting him leave like that. She says she has a feeling they'll meet again soon, and she tells them to prepare for battle since he's warned them ahead of time, so the soldiers get ready. Meanwhile, Chang's men land close to the warehouse, and Zhao tells them that all undamaged supplies must be recovered. He also tells them to kill any living thing they see before entering the dungeon. One of the men notice one other guy hesitating in front of the entrance, so the guy explains that it seems a bit cold. Suddenly, huge spikes of ice knocks them backwards and covers up the entrance. When Zhao sees the spikes, he wonders how K-423 is awake. He warns the men not to go any further and warns them to rush back to the helicopter. Suddenly, Mad Leopard advances and asks Zhao when it became the turn of garbage like Zhao to give orders. Zhao tells him to stop acting tough and reminds them they'll all be in trouble if there's any problem with K-423. Mad Leopard summons another fighter named Iron Fist, who laments that troublesome things always comes his way. One of Mad Leopard's men called Drunkard asks Iron Fist why he's making such a fuss over one test subject, but another lady named Flying Shadow tells him K-423 is different from other test subjects. She says she's the most murderous, violent, and hardest to control among all test subjects. Apparently, she's already destroyed several labs and left no survivors, and they said even the other executioner squads couldn't escape. That's why the higher-ups had to get Chong to find a safe place to seal her away. Mad Leopard asks about the kid Zhao said has spatial abilities because he might have survived under a grenade, so Zhao says he must have woken K-423 while wandering around. He says the kid must probably be dead, and he's because he won't be able to experience Master Zhao's methods. However, Iron Fist teases the rest of them for being nervous, so he says he's going to have a good fight with her himself, so he starts punching the ice wall. Suddenly, Shin appears and tells him to stop. The men are shocked to see her, but she recognizes that they're the execution squad. She tells them she promised Luo she won't cause any trouble, so she asks them to stay back so she doesn't have to. The guys are confused, and Drunkard asks if they got the wrong person because she's much calmer than described. Zhao is surprised she can talk. He wonders how she regained her consciousness and realizes that the Luo she's referring to is that annoying kid. Eventually, Iron Fist tells her he's not waiting until after he pounds her a few times first. As he rushes towards her, one of the men tell him he's a reckless fool, but Shun catches him mid-air with ice spikes, so he's forced to call Drunkard for support. Drunkard reminds him he was just acting so brave, then pours some alcohol into his mouth and spits out fire. Shun realizes Drunkard is a fire ability user, so she quickly creates an ice shield to protect herself. Suddenly, Flying Shadow slices her shield in two, and she tells Shun she's going to take her life first, but Shun is just amazed by her speed. While Shun is fighting, the other creature inside of her pressures her to let her come out to fight, and he tells her she can't do it because she's weak and powerless. While she's facing Iron Fist with a spike, Drunkard blasts her with some fire from behind, and Flying Shadow swoops in to attack while she's blocking that. Meanwhile, the voice keeps bugging her that she can't do it, but Shun tells her to let her handle this. At the same time, she blasts them all with attacks and tells them to get lost, so Flying Shadow admits that she's pretty strong. She says it's strength that's worthy of the legendary K-423, and she says she's always wanted to see what kind of woman could make Chang so obsessed. However, she tells her she's at a dead end because she can't keep defending like this. The other guys tell Shun she doesn't want to be their enemy, so they ask her to come back with them because Master Chang will take good care of her. The voice within her tells her to kill them and wipe them out, and he calls her a useless fool that can't help Luo like this, so the other side tells her to allow her do it. Shin starts to get under pressure to kill them, and she starts to struggle to hold back her other side, but she knows only Luo can stop her other side if it comes out. She starts to wonder where Luo is. Meanwhile, Luo rides his bike towards the area at great speed, and he blasts through a couple of Chang's men talking about reports. The others that are still standing point their guns at him, unsure of who he is and GT, and Luo realizes there's quite a number of them. He considers using his electricity, but he starts to reconsider using all his stored electricity at once on these guys. Suddenly, a grenade drops and blasts the men away, which surprises Luo. It turns out to be Padun, who also tells him that Zhao brought a group of ability users to attack, and he says Shun went to stop them. He says he came out through a back door in the casino, so he asks Luo to go help Shun while he handles these small fries that are outside. Luo rushes to help Shun, and he tells Padun not to let a single one of these men escape. Padun is gone with a smile and says he understands. Meanwhile, Shun gets ambushed by the three fighters again, and Mad Leopard says he didn't really need to come along since it seems K-423 can't live up to her name. However, Zhao feels something isn't right. He says that she doesn't seem to have a strong desire to attack, but she's still able to hold her ground against three people. He knows they couldn't stop her at all if she wanted to run, so he wonders if she's guarding something or if she's waiting for someone. Drunkard jokingly mentions the little boyfriend Zhao said K-423 has and says she might be waiting for him to come save her. He tells her she's going to be disappointed because Luo is just some reckless kid who doesn't understand anything, and he's probably run off to hide somewhere by now. He blasts her with much more fire and tells her to taste his ultimate flame since she's all alone. The heat causes Shun's ice wall to melt, so she retreats when she sees that the entire supermarket is getting hot and normal ice can barely form anymore. She realizes it's going to be too dangerous if this continues, so she decides to let the other her take over. However, Luo suddenly places a hand on her back, and he pushes her out of the way as he blocks the fire with a shield. While the drunkard watches in confusion, Luo rams the shield into his face and tells him he's asking for death. He crushes the fool's face with a shield and smashes him into the ground, causing blood to gush out. From behind, the others watch in confusion, so Luo turns back at them with a smirk. Zhao soon starts to activate his powers, and he calls Luo a little brat that won't die, and he asks how he dare show up here. He asks him how he ended up looking so pathetic, but Luo asks Zhao if he won't run away with his tail between his legs since he brought so many helpers this time, and he calls him Zhao with the scar. Zhao demands to know how he knows his nickname, but Mad Leopard tells them both to stop yapping, and he asks his men to deal with this guy. Mad Leopard remembers how much resources he wasted raising a drunkard, and he calls them all a bunch of useless trash. He warns them to kill Luo, or he'll torture them to death when they get back. So Flying Shadow jumps in a fight after Luo takes out Iron Fist. Luo asks Shun to step back because it seems she doesn't want to use her powers, so she explains that there's no need because she noticed the other her has always been afraid of him, so there's no need to hold back as long as she's here. She unleashes her other part and leaps toward Flying Shadow, who realizes that something has changed about her aura. Meanwhile, Zhao rushes to attack Luo and calls him a brat. Zhao asks him how he still has the nerve to show up and tries to punch him and asks if he really thought K423 would protect him. But Luo returns his punch. Much to his surprise, Luo's punch smashes his metallic hand instantly. So Luo asks him if he thought bringing one execution squad would be enough. Zhao is shocked that this guy's strength is so different from just 2 days ago, but Luo lands a punch in his face and knocks him several feet back. Luo comes forward to finish him off, but he suddenly freezes and realizes his body suddenly feels quite heavy. It turns out to be because of Mad Leopard, who tells him it's enough because he can't let Scarface die, so Master Chong doesn't scold him. Zhao finally gets up and asks Mad Leopard why he waited so much to make a move. Eventually, Mad Leopard tells Luo he likes how stubborn he is, so he asks him to come work for him from now on since the drunkard is dead, and GT, and he offers to put in a good word for him with Chong. Luo realizes this is a gravity ability user, and he wonders why he never heard of someone like this working with Chong in his previous life. Eventually, Luo asks Mad Leopard why they all always chat with such boring lines, so he tells him to try a different script. Because of that, Mad Leopard increases the pressure of the gravity, and he tells Luo to take some time to think it through before all his bones get crushed. Meanwhile, Pajuan takes out all the men, and he considers it embarrassing that one of them was able to injure him. He realizes being out of practice for too long makes him rusty, but he suddenly notices smoke coming out of his wound. Suddenly, the wound completely heals like it was never there, and Pajuan can't believe his eyes. Meanwhile, inside the bunkers, one of the girls points out that Shun and Pajuan have been out for so long, and she almost asks if they're already dead. But one other girl tells her not to talk nonsense since they're so strong. The other girl says she's scared that they'll be captured and taken back, but another girl says she'll never go back to that hellish place, and she'd rather die right here in front of them. However, she adds that it's too early to discuss this, since they have hope if Lord Luo can make it back. Outside the warehouse, Luo keeps getting crushed by the overwhelming weight of Mad Leopard's power, and Shun becomes distracted by it. Behind her, Flying Shadow attacks her and tells her to fight her and stop worrying about her boyfriend. Before Flying Shadow can reach her, Shun counters with her own ice sword, and she says she's not worried about Lord Luo, and Flying Shadow is shocked to realize Shun has sliced up her blade. Shun tells her that they all have no idea what kind of terrifying thing they provoked, and she moves to stab Flying Shadow, but she dodges it. Shun admits that her speed is good for her to be able to dodge that. So Flying Shadow tells her she'll show her how powerful she is. Flying Shadow tells her she can't keep up with her speed, and she can't hurt her, but Shin blasts her with the ice that's on her face without moving a muscle. Shocked, Flying Shadow tries to dodge the spikes, but she gets hit in the face. Suddenly, Iron Fist comes in to shatter some of the ice and tells Shun not to forget he's here. He moves in with a punch to take her on, but Shun just smiles and blocks it with an ice shield. Meanwhile, Luo finds something strange since Shun's strength should have ended the fight already, so he wonders if Shun is holding back or her ability is no match for the crazy woman. Suddenly, Zhao kicks Luo in the face and tells him to stop pretending and looking away. He tells him that K423 belongs to Master Chong, and he tells him to stop daydreaming. However, Luo just smiles and returns the punch, then tells Zhao that he's getting so full of himself. Mad Leopard is shocked that Luo can still move since he's under a multiplied power of gravity, but Luo asks him if he knows what he's saying. He tells Mad Leopard that the slow energy pressing evenly on his body is just too delicious, and he couldn't resist, so he was just playing along with his performance. Apparently, he's been absorbing energy, and he's reached 91%, so he asks Mad Leopard if this is all he's got. Mad Leopard admits that Luo's ability is really strange, so he slams his fist into the ground to give Luo a taste of what he asked for. The attack breaks up the ground and causes everything to start afloat, but Pajuan soon shows up and wonders what on earth is going on. Iron Fist notices the gravity disorder, and he tells the boss he could have given him a heads up first. Shin also notices her body feels so heavy, and she realizes Mad Leopard's ability range is quite large. Meanwhile, Zhao tells Mad Leopard to wait for him to get out first. However, Mad Leopard boasts to Luo that this is ability, and it's called gravity control. He tells Luo to blame himself for making him angry, and he tells him to wait to get crushed by him. However, Luo slams into his face with a kick and asks him if he's done with all his rambling because he's not interested in his resume. Soon after, Mad Leopard repays the hit with a punch and asks Luo if he thinks gravity is only for crushing people. Luo is knocked back, much to his surprise, so Mad Leopard tells him he underestimated him. Mad Leopard tears up his body and presses him into the ground, so he tells him that the gravitational fields within his power range will have many small areas of tearing. He says that even if Luo's muscles can handle the sudden change in gravity, his internal organs can't handle it. Since he now knows how powerful he is, he tells Luo to convince K-423 to surrender to him, too. Meanwhile, Luo considers that Mad Leopard's ability sounds familiar. He soon remembers that this is the ability of the famous Lord-class mutant Skinface from the East District, so he realizes that's why he never heard of someone like this working with Chong in his previous life. Based on when Skinface appeared in his previous life, he realizes Mad Leopard should lose control of his ability soon. Because of that, he gets up and tells Mad Leopard he really misunderstood him. He says that he now realizes that Mad Leopard isn't attacking because he doesn't dare to show off his other side. Shocked, Mad Leopard wonders how he knows about that, but he covers up and tells Luo to stop talking nonsense. However, Luo asks him if Chong knows about this, and says he definitely won't keep useless trash like him if he does. He asks Mad Leopard to take off his hood and prove to everyone that his mutation level is still within controllable limits. His words annoy Mad Leopard, who now already has mutated eyes, and he tells Luo to shut up because he's the chosen one and the future of humanity. He asks how a godlike ability can cause him to mutate, and he says he won't go back to the lab. Mad Leopard promises to crush him to death, but Luo jumps toward him and tells him playtime is over. In his past life, Luo was careful and seriously studying knowledge about all mutants just so he can avoid them. He always hid in settlements protected by ability users, and he never encountered high-level mutants, let alone Skinface, a legendary regional lord. In the present, he's excited to finally meet one, and he transforms into his tyrant form. Luo grabs Mad Leopard by the throat and tells him he's not interested in knowing what happens to him next. And he says it's better to kill him early and save everyone the trouble, so the East District will become a more peaceful area. Suddenly, the system informs Luo that it's detecting Quasi-Lord mutant reaction, so it updates with a side mission by asking him to defeat the Quasi-Lord class mutant that's about to appear with the reward of body enhancement points and random skill enhancement. Luo jokes that the system keeps giving him more work with such cheap rewards, and Mad Leopard soon begins his transformation. Iron Fist wonders why their boss seems a bit off, but Shin closes in on him when he turns around. As she's about to hit him, Flying Shadow shows up again with another sword and slashes her eyes, then tells her opponent is here. Flying Shadow calls Shun an uncontrollable, crazy female dog who gets so much favor from higher-ups just because she awakened a powerful natural type ability, and she says they've suffered terribly because of her. Flying Shadow promises to kill Shun and says her previous resources and treatment will become hers along with Master Chang's favor. Jealous much? However, Shun asks her if she's also a victim just like the other girls in the dungeon. Meanwhile, Iron Fist rushes to help the boss, but Mad Leopard, who's already losing his mind, asks him if he's also here to mock him too. He grabs Iron Fist and asks him if he wants to kill him and take his place, then bites off his head. Luo realizes this guy has gone cuckoo, and Zhao can't even believe what he's seeing. He watches as Mad Leopard starts eating Iron Fist's body, so he decides to escape because this is hopeless. He wonders if the medicine from the strange organization still has side effects even after awakening, so he decides that he has to hurry to tell Master Chong. As he's about to leave, Pajun stops him and tells him it's a bit too late to escape.